It's just a celebration, my parents said when I wasn't invited to my big brother's success party. The notification pinged on my phone. Ethan Harper's success party. Live stream starting now. I froze. Coffee mug suspended halfway to my lips. Success party? What success party? The live stream showed my parents' backyard transformed into a mini tech conference. Fairy lights strung across oak trees. A stage with professional sound. A banner reading, "Congratulations, Ethan. Nexus Connect is going to change the world." Nexus Connect. My stomach twisted into a knot. I set down my mug and texted my mother. Did I miss an invitation to Ethan's party? 3 dots appeared immediately. Mom always responded quickly to texts about my brother. It's just a small celebration for your brother's new company. Nothing formal. Don't overthink it, Ava. Small celebration? I watched as the camera panned across at least 50 people in cocktail attire, drinking champagne and applauding as my brother took the stage. I recognized tech journalists, angel investors I'd researched for years, and the dean from Ethan's business school. This wasn't small. This was calculated. I called Mom, my breath shallow. Hey, sweetie, can I call you back? We're in the middle of. Why wasn't I invited? My voice came out steadier than I felt. A pause. Background noise of clinking glasses and laughter. Ava, honey, it's really just industry people. Your brother needs to network. I'm in the industry too, Mom. Another pause. Well, yes, but you know what I mean. The real industry. People who can help him scale Nexus Connect. It's getting serious attention. Of course it was. It was brilliant. I would know. I'd spent 2 years building the foundation for it. I need to go, honey. I'll call tomorrow. The line went dead. I stared at my laptop where the celebration continued streaming. Dad was at the microphone, face flushed with pride. When Ethan came to us with this revolutionary idea last year, we knew it was special. That's my boy, always thinking 10 steps ahead. My future had been bright too once. Before Ethan saw my prototypes, my code architecture, my business plan. Before he borrowed my laptop for a weekend to help debug my passion project. I switched off the stream and walked to my closet. Behind winter coats sat a dusty box labeled Old Projects. Inside were my original sketches for Nexus Art, the app I'd been developing since junior year of college. Detailed wireframes, user flow diagrams, and pages of handwritten code. I flipped through each page, dated and signed. A habit my computer science professor had encouraged. Always document your work, Ava. You never know when you'll need to prove something is yours. At the time, I thought she was being dramatic. I never imagined I'd need to prove anything to my own family. My phone buzzed. A text from Casey, my college roommate. Are you watching the live stream? Isn't that your app? At least someone remembered. Casey had been there during the all-nighters, had brought me coffee while I coded until sunrise, had listened to me explain my vision repeatedly. It's complicated, I texted back. It's theft is what it is. I was there, Ava. I saw you build that from scratch. I sank onto my bed, the box heavy in my lap. Casey was right. But what was I supposed to do? File a lawsuit against my own brother? Destroy my family over an app? But it wasn't just an app. It was my future. My dream. And Ethan had taken it with the casual entitlement of someone who had never been denied anything. My phone buzzed again. An email from TechCrunch. Nexus Connect. The app revolutionizing how artists find work. Exclusive interview with founder Ethan Harper. There he was, smiling confidently into the camera. So, Ethan, where did the inspiration for Nexus Connect come from? Ethan ran a hand through his perfect hair, a gesture I knew meant he was about to lie. I've always been passionate about supporting independent artists. During business school, I noticed this massive gap in the market. Artists struggling to find venues, businesses wanting unique talent but not knowing where to look. The idea just clicked one day. The idea hadn't just clicked. It had evolved over hundreds of hours of my research and countless interface iterations. What makes Nexus Connect different? The interviewer asked. Our proprietary matching algorithm. It doesn't just connect any artist with any business. It creates meaningful partnerships based on style, values, and vision. My algorithm, the one I'd explained to him over Thanksgiving dinner, sketching it on a napkin while he asked just enough questions to understand how it worked. I closed the browser, unable to watch more. My hands hovered over the keyboard. I could email TechCrunch right now. I had proof, timestamps, original files, witnesses. But would they believe me, the quiet, overlooked younger sister, over my charismatic, business school-educated brother?
My phone rang.
Ethan's name flashed on screen. Hello.
Ava.
Are you watching? We're trending on Twitter. His voice was breathless. I saw, I said flatly. The investors are going crazy. We might close another round of funding tonight. Congratulations. The word tasted bitter. A pause. You okay? You sound weird. I'm fine. Just wondering why I wasn't invited to celebrate my brother's big success.
Oh.
Well, Mom and Dad wanted to keep it industry-focused. I'm 26, Ethan, and I have a computer science degree from MIT. You know what I mean? I did know. What he meant was, you make me uncomfortable because you know the truth. I have to go, he said quickly. We're about to announce the seed funding. I'll call you tomorrow, okay? He hung up before I could respond. I turned back to the box in my lap. Under the sketches was a thumb drive I'd almost forgotten about. I plugged it into my laptop and found the original source code for what was now Nexus Connect, with my digital signature embedded in every file. For 3 years, I'd stayed quiet. I'd believed family loyalty mattered more than recognition. I'd told myself that Ethan's success would somehow become mine too. But watching strangers celebrate my brother for stealing my work, watching my parents proudly call him a genius, something shifted inside me. The girl who had swallowed her pride was gone. In her place stood someone new, someone with evidence, determination, and a score to settle. My phone pinged. Ethan Harper just announced $2.5 million in seed funding for Nexus Connect. I smiled for the first time that evening. Let them celebrate tonight. Tomorrow, the real work would begin. 3 years earlier, my apartment was a fortress of creativity. Whiteboards covered in flowcharts. Sticky notes mapping user experiences. My desk cluttered with sketchbooks filled with interface designs. I lived and breathed Nexus Art, my solution for struggling artists to connect with local businesses that needed their talent. It started after my friend Jamie, a talented muralist, couldn't find consistent work despite local cafes and boutiques constantly searching for artists. The disconnect was obvious, the solution wasn't. I spent months interviewing artists and business owners, identifying pain points and building an algorithm to match them based on style, budget, and values. The day Ethan dropped by unannounced was unusually warm for October. I remember because I had the windows open, papers secured by coffee mugs to prevent them from flying away. Working hard or hardly working? Ethan's voice startled me. He leaned against my doorframe, designer sunglasses pushed into his perfect hair. Fresh from business school with an MBA and zero real-world experience, but all the confidence in the world. I didn't hear you knock, I said, minimizing my code windows instinctively. Door was open. He strolled in, picking up sketches and examining them with casual interest. So, this is the big project you've been hiding away to work on? I hadn't been hiding. I'd talked about Nexus Art at family dinners for months. Nobody listened. It's an app connecting artists with businesses, I explained, watching him flip through my prototype sketches. I'm calling it Nexus Art. Huh. He set down the sketches. Sounds niche. That was Ethan, always making me feel small without directly criticizing. It's solving a real problem. He wandered to my desk, eyes scanning my monitors. Show me? I hesitated. Ethan and I had never been close. As kids, he was the athletic golden boy while I was the quiet tech nerd. But he'd never shown interest in my work before. Maybe this was an olive branch.
Sure.
I pulled up my working prototype. It's still rough, but the core functionality is there. For the next hour, I walked him through everything. The matching algorithm, revenue model, market research. He asked surprisingly insightful questions. For once, I felt like my big brother actually saw me. This has potential, Ava, he finally said. But the UI needs work, and your back-end architecture could be more efficient. I'm still optimizing it. Let me help. He flashed his trademark smile. I know some people who could give feedback. Maybe investors too. My heart raced. Really?
Sure.
Just need to understand how everything fits together. Mind if I borrow your laptop this weekend? I've got a friend at Google who might look at it. I should have said no. But validation from Ethan was so rare, so intoxicating. Promise you'll be careful with it? Cross my heart. He made an X over his chest, something he hadn't done since we were kids. That weekend stretched into a week. My calls went straight to voicemail. When I finally cornered him at Sunday dinner at our parents' house, he returned my laptop with a casual thanks. What did your friend think? I asked eagerly. Oh, he was busy. But I looked it over. It's a cool hobby project. Hobby project. The dismissal stung. 2 months later, Ethan announced he was working on a revolutionary platform for creative economy. My parents were ecstatic. Ethan's finally found his calling, Dad proclaimed. When Ethan described his concept at Christmas dinner, my blood ran cold. It was Nexus art with a different name and sleeker interface. He caught my eye across the table and didn't flinch. Just smiled and continued explaining my idea to our captivated parents. After dinner, I confronted him in the kitchen. That's my app, I hissed. You stole it. He looked genuinely confused. What are you talking about? Nexus Connect. It's Nexus art. My concept. My algorithm. Even the name is similar. He laughed, actually laughed. Ava, come on. Yours was a basic matching service. This is a comprehensive platform with blockchain integration and advanced AI, which you added to my foundation. His expression hardened. Look, connecting artists with businesses isn't a new idea. Yours was just underdeveloped. A student project. I'm taking it to market. That's business. I was going to take it to market. With what resources? What connections? He shook his head. Be realistic. You're good at coding, but this requires more. I'm doing you a favor, really. A favor. I couldn't believe what I was hearing.
Sure.
When this succeeds, I'll bring you on. Junior developer or something. I stormed out and told my parents everything. Their response was worse than Ethan's. Honey, Mom said gently, ideas evolve. Ethan has connections you don't have. He's built for this world, Dad added. He'll make something of it. The implication was clear. I wouldn't. I wasn't built for success like Ethan was. For months afterward, I watched from the sidelines as Ethan secured funding, built a team, and launched a beta version of Nexus Connect. Each milestone was celebrated like a national holiday by my parents. Each time I mentioned the theft, they'd say, "It's family, Ava. Let it go." So I did. I buried myself in a corporate coding job, stopped working on personal projects, convinced myself it didn't matter. Until today. Until I watched the world celebrate my brother for something he took from me. I closed the box of evidence and placed it on my desk. They always said Ethan was the genius of the family, the natural leader, the visionary. But behind every genius like him was someone like me, quietly building while they were busy talking. They dismissed me because I was quiet. What they forgot was that quiet doesn't mean powerless. I opened my laptop and created a new folder, Reclaiming Nexus. It was time to show them exactly what the quiet one could do. The first person I called was not a lawyer. Not yet. It was Professor Lin Wei. 3 years ago, she had supervised my senior project, the earliest version of Nexus Art. She had been the one who insisted I document everything, date every sketch, sign every page of code. Intellectual property is sacred, Ava, she told me. Especially for women in tech. People will try to take credit for your work. Don't let them. At the time, I thought she was being paranoid. Now I knew she was being prophetic. She answered on the third ring. Ava Harper, it's been too long. Professor Wei, I need your help. My voice trembled slightly. It's about Nexus Art. A pause. I saw the TechCrunch article. Your brother's company looks remarkably familiar. Of course she'd noticed. Professor Wei missed nothing. He stole it, I said plainly. Every core concept, even the name. And you're just now doing something about it? The question stung, but I deserved it. I convinced myself it didn't matter. That family was more important than credit. I was wrong. She sighed. Come to my office tomorrow morning, 8 a.m. Bring everything you have. I stayed up all night organizing. Original sketches, development logs, even emails to Professor Wei describing my progress. By sunrise, I had 3 years of evidence neatly compiled. Professor Wei's office hadn't changed, still cluttered with books, awards, and student projects she believed in. She examined my evidence methodically, her expression darkening with each page. This is textbook intellectual property theft, she finally said. Have you spoken to a lawyer? Not yet. I wanted your opinion first. She leaned back in her chair. Legally, you have a case, but it's complicated by the fact that he's your brother and it's been 3 years. I'm aware. I twisted my hands in my lap, but I can't let him get away with this. Not anymore. Then you need more than just evidence. You need allies. She tapped her fingers on her desk. I assume your parents are supporting him? I nodded, the familiar hurt surfacing. Then you need people who can vouch for you. People who saw your work in progress. And you need someone on the inside of Nexus Connect. The inside? I don't know anyone there. Her smile was sharp. You don't, but I do. Professor Wei opened her laptop and pulled up a profile. Zach Okafor, lead designer at Nexus Connect. Zach was my student 5 years ago. Brilliant designer, strong ethical compass. He joined Nexus Connect 6 months ago. She tapped the screen, and according to his social media, he's not entirely happy there. My pulse quickened. You think he'd help me? I think he deserves to know who really created the platform he's designing for. She wrote his contact information on a sticky note. Approach carefully. Your brother must have had him sign NDAs. I pocketed the note. Thank you, Professor. Don't thank me yet. Her expression grew serious. Ava, are you sure you want to do this? It could destroy your relationship with your family forever. The question hung in the air. 3 years ago, it would have stopped me cold. Now, it barely made me pause. They destroyed that relationship when they chose to believe in Ethan's lies over my truth. She nodded, satisfied. Then one more thing. She handed me a business card. Helena Rivera, best IP attorney in the state. Tell her I sent you. I left Professor Wei's office with something I hadn't felt in years. Hope. That afternoon, I messaged Zach Okafor on LinkedIn. Hi Zach, I'm a former student of Professor Lin Wei. I'm researching UX design for creative platforms and would love your insights on your work at Nexus Connect. Vague enough to seem innocent. Specific enough to get his attention. He responded within an hour. Any friend of Professor Wei is a friend of mine. Coffee tomorrow? We met at a quiet cafe far from the Nexus Connect offices. Zach was tall with thoughtful eyes behind stylish glasses. He seemed cautious until I mentioned Professor Wei's cryptic warning about my research. So, this isn't really about UX design, is it? He asked. I took a deep breath. How familiar are you with the original concept behind Nexus Connect? His expression shifted. You mean Ethan Harper's revolutionary idea? The air quotes were audible. What if I told you it wasn't his idea at all? Zach leaned forward. I'm listening. I showed him select pieces of evidence, early sketches that matched current Nexus Connect features exactly. His eyes widened. I've been working on an interface that felt familiar somehow, like I was retracing someone else's steps. He shook his head. It was yours all along. Yes. And Ethan Harper is your brother. He let out a low whistle. That's cold, even by tech bro standards. I need to know what's happening inside Nexus Connect right now, I said. Any major events coming up? Zach hesitated, then reached a decision. The Series A announcement party. Next Friday. Investors, media, industry people. Ethan's giving a big presentation on the journey and vision of Nexus Connect. My heart raced. Perfect. Perfect for what? He asked. For showing everyone the truth. Zach looked concerned. Ava, Ethan has powerful backers now. This could get ugly. It already is ugly. I'm just bringing it into the light. He studied me for a moment, then nodded. What do you need from me? Just information. And maybe access to the party. Over the next week, I built my case meticulously. Helena Rivera, the IP attorney, reviewed my evidence and confirmed what I already knew. I had a strong claim. But litigation takes time, she warned. Years, potentially. And it's expensive. I'm not looking for a settlement, I told her. I want recognition. And I want to stop him before he gets even bigger. With Zach's help, I learned the details of the upcoming party. The guest list. The schedule. The exact presentation Ethan planned to give. A slide deck titled, The Birth of Nexus Connect, From Inspiration to Innovation. The irony would have been amusing if it weren't so infuriating. The night before the party, Casey came over to help me prepare. She looked at the presentation I'd created, a devastating side-by-side comparison of my work and Ethan's innovation. This will destroy him, she said quietly. I paused, feeling a moment of doubt. He's left me no choice. Casey squeezed my shoulder. I know, and I'm with you, but are you ready for what comes after? I wasn't. Not really. But I'd spent 3 years being invisible. Tomorrow, finally, everyone would see. They dismissed me because I'm quiet, I said, echoing the thought that had sustained me for days. They forgot that quiet doesn't mean powerless. My phone buzzed with a text from Zach. All set for tomorrow. Your name's on a list as my +1. Ready? I texted back one word. Ready. The Nexus Connect Series A celebration was held at the Metropolitan Tech Hub, a gleaming glass and steel structure that housed some of the city's most promising startups. Fitting, since everyone believed Ethan's company would be the next unicorn. I arrived with Zach at 8:15 p.m., precisely when Ethan's presentation was scheduled to begin. My hands trembled slightly as I smoothed down my black dress, professional, confident, unmistakably serious. Not the little sister anyone would expect. You look like you're going into battle, Zach observed. I am. The security guard checked the guest list. Zach Okafor and Ava Harper. He glanced up, his expression changing. Any relation to Ethan Harper? His sister, I said calmly. The guard looked confused. I didn't realize. It's fine, Paul, Zach interrupted. She's with me. Inside, the party was in full swing. Champagne flowed freely. Investors mingled with tech journalists. A digital display showed Nexus Connect's user numbers growing in real time, artists and businesses connecting across the country through my algorithm. I spotted my parents near the stage, my mother elegant in blue, my father beaming with pride. They hadn't seen me yet. There's Ethan, Zach murmured, nodding toward a cluster of people surrounding my brother. He looked perfect as always, designer suit, artfully tousled hair, practiced smile. A young tech visionary on his way to changing the world. Is everything ready? I asked.
Zach patted his laptop bag.
As requested. I've got access to the presentation system. Just give me the signal. A voice came over the speakers. Ladies and gentlemen, please take your seats. Our presentation will begin momentarily. The crowd moved toward rows of chairs facing a stage. My parents sat in the front row. I chose a seat halfway back, partially hidden behind a tall man, but with a clear view of the stage. The lights dimmed. A spotlight illuminated the podium as Ethan stepped up confidently. Applause filled the room. Thank you all for coming tonight, he began. 3 years ago, Nexus Connect was just an idea, a vision to transform how artists and businesses connect. My jaw tightened. The familiar words. My words. I saw a broken system. Talented creators struggling to find work. Businesses unable to discover unique talent. Ethan's voice swelled with rehearsed passion. I knew there had to be a better way. On the screen behind him, the Nexus Connect logo appeared, followed by statistics. 50,000 artists registered. 12,000 businesses. $3.7 million in commissions facilitated. All built on stolen dreams. Tonight, I'm thrilled to announce that Nexus Connect has secured $15 million in series of funding, led by Horizon Ventures. The crowd erupted in applause. My parents clutched each other's hands, eyes shining with tears of pride. But before we celebrate the future, I want to share the journey. The story of how Nexus Connect came to be. He clicked to the first slide. The birth of an idea. It was time. I stood and moved purposefully toward the stage. A few heads turned, but most eyes remained fixed on Ethan. Zach slipped away toward the AV control booth. The inspiration came during my final year at business school, Ethan continued. I noticed a fundamental disconnect in the creative economy. I reached the stage steps. A security guard stepped forward, but Zach had appeared beside him, whispering something that made the guard hesitate just long enough. I climbed the steps as Ethan clicked to a slide showing his original sketches, cleaned up, digitized versions of my work. Ethan, I said, my voice carrying across the suddenly silent room. He froze, microphone halfway to his mouth. Confusion, then recognition, then something like fear flashed across his face. Ava, what are you? I think it's time for the real story of Nexus Connect, don't you? Murmurs rippled through the audience. My parents stood up, my mother's hand covering her mouth, my father's brow furrowing. This isn't the place, Ethan hissed, his smile strained. We can talk later.
No.
We've waited 3 years for this conversation. I turned to the audience. My name is Ava Harper. I'm Ethan's sister, and I'm the actual creator of what you know as Nexus Connect. The murmurs grew louder. A journalist in the front row started recording on her phone. Ava, stop this, my father called out. You're embarrassing yourself. Am I? I nodded to Zach in the back. The screen behind Ethan changed instantly. On the left, my original Nexus art sketches, dated and signed 3 years ago. On the right, Ethan's revolutionary interface designs. Identical in every meaningful way. Gasps echoed through the room. This is ridiculous, Ethan sputtered. Anyone can make sketches after the fact. The slides changed again. My original code architecture. My documented algorithm. Early emails between Professor Wei and me discussing the concept. All time-stamped, all predating Ethan's supposed eureka moment. 3 years ago, my brother asked to borrow my laptop to help debug my project. Instead, he copied everything and relaunched it as his own. My voice remained steady, even as Ethan's face drained of color. Every breakthrough feature of Nexus Connect was developed by me in my apartment while I was still in college. The room had gone completely silent. Ava, that's enough. My mother's voice shook with anger or fear. I couldn't tell which, but I wasn't finished. The final slide appeared, a side-by-side video comparison. On the left, me demonstrating Nexus Art's prototype to Professor Wei. On the right, Ethan's demo to investors. The similarities were undeniable. I have extensive documentation, witness testimony, and digital evidence proving I am the original creator. I faced Ethan directly. I didn't need an invitation to a party thrown in my name. I built the damn thing. I'm here to claim it. The chaos erupted. Investors huddled in urgent whispers. Journalists furiously took notes. My father stormed toward the stage, while my mother sat down heavily, her face in her hands. Ethan grabbed my arm. Do you have any idea what you've done? I met his gaze steadily. Exactly what you taught me to do. Take what's mine. For once in his life, my golden boy brother had nothing to say. The following morning felt surreal. I woke to my phone exploding with notifications, 38 missed calls, 127 text messages, and emails from tech journalists, investors, and law firms. The tech world was on fire with a story. Startup scandal. Sister claims brother stole multi-million-dollar app idea. I ignored them all and made coffee, watching the sunrise through my kitchen window. For the first time in 3 years, I felt strangely light. The secret I'd been carrying was finally out in the open. My doorbell rang at 9:17 a.m. I peered through the peephole to see my parents standing side by side, their faces drawn and tired. I considered not answering, but this conversation was inevitable. "May we come in?" my father asked when I opened the door. No hug, no greeting, just tension radiating from both of them. I stepped aside silently. They entered my apartment like strangers, perching uncomfortably on the edge of my couch. "What you did last night was inexcusable," my father began, his voice tight with controlled anger. "Do you have any idea the damage you've caused? To Ethan's reputation? Or to the family myth that he's the only successful one?" My mother flinched. "Ava, darling, we understand you're upset." "No, you don't." I remained standing, unwilling to be talked down to. "You've never understood. For 3 years, I told you Ethan stole my work. You dismissed me every time." "You could have handled this privately," my father insisted. "Instead, you publicly humiliated your brother in front of everyone who matters in his industry." "My industry," I corrected him. "And I tried private. I tried talking. Nobody listened." My mother dabbed at her eyes with a tissue. "The investors are pulling out. The media is calling Ethan a fraud. His career might be over." "And what about my career? Did either of you ever think about that when you were celebrating his success with my work?" Silence fell between us. For once, they had no ready defense. "Ethan wants to meet," my father finally said, "to work something out." I laughed without humor. "I bet he does." "He's your brother, Ava." My mother reached for my hand, but I pulled away. Families should forgive. Families shouldn't steal in the first place. My father stood abruptly. "We raised you better than this, to be the bigger person." "I told them I finally am," I replied, meeting his gaze steadily. "You just don't recognize it because it doesn't look like submission anymore." They left shortly after, neither of them hugging me goodbye. I watched from my window as they drove away, knowing something fundamental had shifted in our family dynamic forever. By noon, Helena Rivera called. "You've made quite a splash," she said, skipping pleasantries. "Ethan's lawyers want a meeting." "I'm not interested in a settlement that includes silence." "They're not offering one," she replied. "His lead investor is threatening fraud charges. Ethan needs you to acknowledge a collaborative development process to save face." And what do I get? Full credit as the original creator. Majority ownership of the restructured company. Your name as founder. I paused, surprised. That's more than I expected. "It seems your evidence was compelling. And according to my sources, 2 major investors were impressed by your presentation. They're more interested in backing the actual innovator than a fraud." While I processed this, another call came through Professor Wei. "I've been following the news," she said when I answered. "Are you all right?" "I think so. Ethan's offering me control of the company." "And will you take it?" I hesitated. "I'm not sure. Part of me wants nothing to do with Nexus Connect." "Then perhaps this might interest you," she said. "I've spoken with Marco Diaz at Catalyst Ventures. He saw your presentation last night and was impressed not just by your original work, but by your courage. He'd like to meet about funding a new venture, whatever you want to build next." My heart raced. A fresh start, completely separate from Nexus Connect and your brother. Your vision, your terms. By evening, the news cycle had evolved. TechCrunch published an expose. Brother stole sister's startup. She outsmarts him live. Social media buzzed with support, particularly from women in tech sharing similar stories of having their work co-opted or stolen. My phone rang again. "Ethan." After 4 rings, I answered, but said nothing. "Ava." His voice sounded rougher, more vulnerable than I'd ever heard it. "Can we talk? We're talking now. Not like this. Face to face." "Say what you need to say, Ethan." A long pause. "I'm sorry." The words seemed to cost him physically. "I never thought. I didn't realize how far it would go." "You knew exactly what you were doing." "Yes," he admitted, surprising me. "At first I just wanted to improve your idea. Make it marketable." Then the investors got excited, and suddenly I was in too deep to back out. "You could have brought me in at any point. I know that now."
His voice cracked.
"The investors are gone. My reputation is ruined. Mom and Dad are devastated." I should have felt vindicated. Instead, I felt hollow. "What do you want from me, Ethan? Help me fix this," he pleaded. "We could run it together. Brother and sister. The way it should have been from the start." 3 years ago, those words would have meant everything. Now, they came too late. "I don't think so," I said quietly. "I'm starting something new. Something that's just mine. Ava, please. Goodbye, Ethan." I hung up and blocked his number. Then I opened my laptop and created a new document. At the top, I typed, "Vision Statement, AVA Harper Technologies." For the first time in years, the future belonged entirely to me. 6 months passed in a blur of meetings, code, and rebuilding. On a crisp autumn morning, I stood backstage at the Women in Tech Summit, listening to my introduction. Our next speaker revolutionized the creative economy twice, first with the algorithm behind Nexus Connect, and now with her groundbreaking platform, Authentic. Please welcome Ava Harper. The applause washed over me as I stepped onto the stage. Hundreds of faces looked back, aspiring developers, established engineers, and students who reminded me of myself not long ago. "Thank you," I began, my voice steady and clear through the microphone. 6 months ago, I was invisible. Today, I'm here to talk about visibility, not just for me, but for every person whose ideas deserve recognition. My presentation screen displayed the sleek interface of Authentic, my new platform that expanded on my original vision, but with a crucial difference. It was built on blockchain technology that permanently attributed creative work to its originators. No more stolen ideas. No more erased contributions. Authentic isn't just an app connecting artists with opportunities, I explained. It's a commitment to integrity in the creative economy. Every contribution is recorded. Every collaborator is credited. Every creator maintains ownership of their work. In the front row, Professor Wei nodded approvingly. Beside her sat Zach, who had left Nexus Connect to become my lead designer, and Casey, who had believed in me from the beginning, even when I hadn't believed in myself. Many of you have asked how I stayed so patient during those 3 years. I continued. The truth is, I wasn't patient. I was scared. I was hurt. But most importantly, I was focused, even when I didn't realize it. Every slight, every dismissal, every time my brother took credit for my work, it was all teaching me exactly what needed to change in our industry. The Authentic logo glowed on the screen behind me, a stylized that doubled as an ascending path. We launched in beta 3 months ago with 200 artists. Today, we have 20,000 creators and 5,000 businesses on the platform. We've facilitated over $1 million in creative commissions, with each artist receiving fair payment and full credit for their work. I didn't mention that Nexus Connect had folded after my confrontation. Ethan had tried to rebrand, to pivot, but the damage was irreversible. He'd eventually taken a mid-level marketing position at a financial tech company. We hadn't spoken since that phone call. My parents were a different story. 2 months after the confrontation, my mother had shown up at my apartment with a box of my childhood drawings. "I found these while cleaning," she'd said hesitantly. "You always were the creative one. I'm sorry we didn't see it." It wasn't a full acknowledgement, but it was a beginning. We were slowly rebuilding, one awkward dinner at a time. My father took longer, but last week, he'd sent a newspaper clipping about Authentic with a post-it note. "Proud of you. Small steps." After my presentation, a young woman approached me, clutching a notebook. "Ms. Harper, your story changed everything for me," she said, her voice trembling slightly. "My lab partner keeps taking credit for my research. After hearing about you, I finally spoke up." "What happened?" I asked. She grinned. "The department launched an investigation. Turns out I wasn't the only one he'd stolen from." Stories like hers were why I now said yes to every speaking request, despite my natural introversion. Not to build my brand, but to make sure others knew they weren't alone. Later that evening, Marco Diaz, my lead investor, raised a glass at our team dinner. To Authentic's first round of funding, $20 million. The team cheered. We'd proved the skeptics wrong. A platform built on integrity could be profitable, revolutionary even. "And to Ava," Zach added, who taught us all that the quietest voice in the room might have the most important thing to say. I smiled, thinking of how far I'd come from that apartment where I'd watched my brother take credit for my work. The darkness of that time hadn't disappeared. It had transformed into purpose. My phone buzzed with a text from Casey. "They're calling you the next big thing in tech. How does it feel to be visible?" I looked around at my team, brilliant, ethical people who saw me clearly, who valued not just my ideas but my leadership, who had chosen to build something meaningful with me. "It feels like home," I texted back. After dinner, I walked alone through the city streets, the cool evening air clearing my head. A young street artist was painting a mural on a coffee shop wall, one of Authentic's first success stories. She waved when she saw me, proudly pointing to her work. I hadn't burned bridges with my family. I'd simply built new ones, with people who actually saw me. The old relationships were changing, evolving into something more honest, if more complicated. My phone rang, an unknown number. "Is this Ava Harper?" a woman's voice asked when I answered. "Speaking." "This is Janelle Morris from Time Magazine. We're doing our Innovators Under 30 issue, and your name keeps coming up." I smiled to myself. Once, this kind of recognition would have seemed impossible. Now it felt like just the beginning. "I'd be happy to talk," I said. "But first, let me tell you the real story."